and thank you for tuning into Amwell's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee's podcast series, DEI Dialogue. These conversations will spotlight the voices of our committee and their distinct experiences as we spend this year together and celebrate various U.S. Heritage Month. I'm Sapna, and I'll be your host. And today we have Rachel Draper, who is our guest of honor. For those who don't know you yet, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what attracted you to this month's podcast?
Yeah, well, hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I am Rachel Draper. I'm one of the senior recruiters here at Amwell. I've been here since 2018. I truly love Women's History Month. It's actually something that I feel like is an identifier about me. I have a book club that I'm very dedicated to, and we read a feminist literature and talk about it every month. I have a dog and a husband that I love very much. And in our spare time, we go hiking, and I love to just sort of move. I've recently gotten very into pickleball, so you could catch me on the course maybe every weekend when it's warmer.
That's awesome. I can relate to husband and dog, although my dog does take a priority, but my husband's not listening to this podcast, so we're
Uh,
okay.
honestly, same.
It's just the honest truth, right? What experiences in your life would you say have shaped the way you think or feel about your body over the years? I know this is the topic of this month's podcast, so I just wanted to go into that. And is there possibly someone or something that helped change your thoughts on it as you grew up?
Yeah, great question. And as I'm somebody that's been in sports my entire life, and I think my relationship to my body has I like call them eras or epochs, if you will, as I've grown up. I'm standing tall at 5'1.5", and I think I always had to work a little bit harder than the rest of my teammates. Even when I was a swimmer, my cohorts there, I had to work harder because I was just smaller than everybody. And when I was just sort of starting out, I think I was really angry. I was angry at my parents. I was angry at my body for not being the same size as everybody else, for not developing the same way everybody else did. And then when I got a little bit older and I feel like I was an actual competitor, I started getting angry for different reasons because we have all these societal pressures, especially as a teen. I think men and women can really relate to this, where
Yeah.
we're policed and we have to fit into this desirable package. And as a female athlete, you have to be strong, but not so strong that you're intimidating to your male counterparts, because then you're not desirable anymore. And so I
Right.
felt angry at sort of society and myself for even wanting to get big and strong. So I ended up just trying to be as small as possible. And I remember this one time I went on this date with the high school captain of the hockey team, and um, he was taking me to this like greasy burger place, and I was talking to all my friends about it. I was so excited, but internally I was like screaming. I was so anxious, and how could I achieve this like cool girl aesthetic that I so wanted to be, and eat this burger that I knew would give me extra calories, and everything I saw was like, don't do this, but you also have to do this to be cool. And
Right.
so I ended up just running myself into extreme exhaustion. I was on the lacrosse team at the time, and so it was post lacrosse practice. I think I ran like 10 miles a day in anticipation of this one date. And then post the date, I started to cry and just sort of tried to restrict my caloric intake for months. And I really focused and obsessed over it. And really it was because I decided to go against the bounds of what was deemed acceptable for caloric intake, I guess, for achieving the look. And I think a newer era of my experience has been, as I've gotten older, I think diet culture has morphed and really seeped its way into, Facebook, Instagram, really social media, and TikTok too. I think there's all this noise around body positivity, which can be really great. But what I end up seeing and feeling am I eating the right things? Am I healthy enough? Those videos around what I eat in a day ended up making me feel pretty terrible. I think comparison is ultimately the thief of joy. And I got to this place where I think comparison is the thief of joy by reading authors like Roxane Gay, Lindy West, Jessica Valenti. They really helped me change the way I think and approach my health and body image and the way I think about my body, coupling that with years of therapy too.
Yeah, and I think that's a really honest, response. I love your response to that question and your example about your
Thank you.
experience. I think at that age especially, that really shapes the way you think about yourself, and
Yeah.
it's not easy in society to get past the stuff you hear all the time because it's constantly going around us. I feel like you already kind of touched on my next question, which makes it easier. Based off the experience that you just talked about, I wanted to get your thoughts on this Cleveland Clinic article that I
Yeah.
saw, and I'm just going to quote it, is body positivity is loving your body regardless of shape, size, color, gender, or ability. And others embrace body neutrality, which focuses on appreciating what the body can do. So, based off your story and I guess any other experiences too, how does body positivity and body neutrality impact you in your life?
Such a great article. It was such a good read. I'm not alone in this where we've tried so many things to help our body images, different ways in which we can approach it. I'm too short, not short enough, too thick, not thick enough, too hairy, but not in the right
Yeah.
places. I think, yeah, look, we've all had a variation of these thoughts. For body positivity, for me, I think the way it's impacted my life is just being able to accept myself, right? And really like what I see in the mirror and really believe that I have intrinsic value beyond what I look like, but also I can like it. And that's not every day, right? We have our ups and downs. And then with body neutrality, what I've been doing the past couple of years is really just thanking a part of my body in the morning for whatever purpose it serves me, just for existing, right? I walk my dog a couple miles a day. And so in the morning, I like to just like silently thank my legs for giving me the ability of mobility, right? And I just ultimately feel super lucky.
I think that's a really great habit. I used to put Post-its on my mirror,
Love that.
and it was silly and tacky, but it was ironically just so helpful,
Yeah.
and it made me feel better, like, you notice it. Same thing with telling yourself affirmations in the mirror or out loud. It makes such a difference than even just reading them. So
Yeah.
I absolutely love that you do that, and that's something I want to incorporate back into my life. So again, going back into my next question, you already kind of went into that naturally, but when do you feel you're most confident and what helps you feel your best? I guess on top of just, maybe affirmations and thinking
Sure.
your body, what else do you do to feel your best?
I love eating. I love it. It makes me feel so happy. I love
Absolutely.
trying new food. I love to experience new things. I feel like it's an avenue to experience even a different culture outside of mine. It truly makes me feel confident because I feel smarter when I eat better food. But also I think Peloton classes have significantly increased my confidence and just my body. Honestly, it has to do with strength, and I think these instructors do a great job of just telling their Pelotonees, that they can do it, one more push or whatever it might be. I always leave those classes truly feeling like I can be anything. Those are a couple of things that are helpful for making me feel confident. Another thing I do want to mention is I love power posing. Sometimes I just try to make myself as big and loud as possible, take up as much space. And once I've done that, I just feel so good. I'm meant to be here. Like I get to exist here, and it's really nice.
There was actually an episode of Grey's Anatomy where one of the surgeons was so nervous to go into surgery, and she
Yeah.
ended up saying she poses like a superhero with both hands on her hips and her chin
Yeah.
high. Started doing that before my interviews or before like a really big presentation. And I was like, okay, I do feel a little badass here. Like, I do feel very
Totally.
confident. And just like they say, your body posture determines the type of vibe you're giving off and how you feel. So I can absolutely relate to the power pose, and I think it's extremely underrated. It's worth a try for anyone who hasn't done so. I mean, those were some really great examples you gave, and I'm so glad you were very open and honest about your experiences. By the time this episode reaches our listeners, I know it'll be nearing the end of the 2023 Women's History Month, which does not mean it's ending forever. It's a commemorative federal observance that highlights the vital contributions of women to American history and contemporary society.
Yeah.
So, with all of that in mind, what does recognizing this month mean to you?
It signifies a lot to me. I think this History Month really recognizes women of every group in the United States that has committed to pushing us forward and fighting for more equity and equality. I think about, Abigail Adams advising President John Adams on politics and policies that shaped the America that we live in today, from Susan B. Anthony giving women a voice and choice, and all the way to Audre Lorde creating space for people who really look like her and giving them a seat at the table, right? I think we have a lot of steps to go and roadblocks to face ahead, but every year this month truly sparks this new, like, let's go, maybe a new fight in me, I would call it, pushing against the boundaries and barriers that are meant to keep women and minorities out of rooms where decisions happen. So I love that we get to recognize this month.
And to leave our listeners with something that they can maybe engage and think on further based off of
Yeah.
our topic, what's something from social media that you think maybe portrays an element of your unique experience, or that you think that other listeners might find insightful to watch, read,
Yeah.
or refer to?
There is this amazing 5-minute video posted by the Eater website with Jessica Valenti and Lindy West. And they're literally eating food, talking about performative eating and really what that means and their relationship, everybody's relationship to food, and what it really means to be under society's watch. And I think the internal policing that we do to ourselves versus the external policing that we do to each other is super important conversation, because I think once we're more empathetic on what we do and the conversations we have internally, we can ultimately be more empathetic to people around us, and those really hard lines of what we deem as acceptable for eating and just consuming, and people of size and color and race and gender and all these things. There can just be more compassion there, just rounding it out to, like, creating an empathetic wavelength that everybody can sort of have better inner dialogues with ourselves and each other. And ultimately, I think that would lead to more understanding and probably compassion towards one another.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that there's so many movies that just swarm in my head because I know it's portrayed in all aspects of media. I know there's a
Totally.
scene in White Chicks, if any listeners have seen it, where they're at dinner and Terry Crews is taking out one of the characters and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to have, this giant meal that's so unhealthy and maybe perhaps a salad for the lady." And it's all in comedy, but we know that that's also a very real assumption and stereotype where the girl should be ordering a salad. It's so relatable where it's, shouldn't you be eating a salad? And it's, no, absolutely not. Perhaps not. And then order, whatever that other person's ordering. So I think that's a fantastic video. And I hope listeners get as much as I did out of it. Any personal habits you say that maybe you would suggest for other women or individuals, possibly, that maybe they can apply to their everyday related to their positive body image for themselves or others?
I really think my most positive habit and most impactful for me has been truly just thanking my body for giving me the ability to move and just have experiences. I think I'm so lucky to be able to move about the world and see different things and try and taste and smell different things. I know something that I love is hiking, and it makes me feel really close to my mom. And so when I get to smell, like, the hiking smell, I'm I'm so thankful, and it really, like, changes intrinsically the relationship that I have to my body, because it's more than just looks, right? It's
Yeah.
I'm more than my looks, and that's been a redirect in my thinking, and it stems from thanking my body for doing day-to-day tasks.
Yeah, natural environments always uplift my mood no matter what you're feeling. And you're like, oh, it's not
Same,
going to make a difference. You go for a walk, you have mindfulness when you go out, what you're
totally.
seeing, smelling, touching, all of that kind of stuff. I can totally see how that can be a really positive impact. That rounds up our podcast for today. So thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. And happy Women's Month to all our listeners. This is one of many, many podcasts to come from DEI. So please stay tuned and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.